Okay, this video is about white balancing at the start of a case. Initially, when you plug in the camera into this slot, you would see on the primary screen an aerial shot of the camera head with both buttons lit up green. At that point, once the light source is activated by pressing this to turn it on, which you'll see with our cord, the blue cord will be illuminated. The surgical tech or surgeon can hit either button and release on something white. You would get a check mark and you'd be off to the races and ready to go. Sometimes accidentally they'll tap a button and they'll get a failed white balance, in which case at that point you would then have to either, if the green buttons stay up on the primary screen indicating that it's still ready for white balance, you can redo it there. Sometimes it does advance beyond that, at which point you would need to either you or the nurse, you if you're in the room, or the nurse can hit the white balance here when they're ready, or on the tablet they can hit this settings cog, and you see it defaults to this camera icon of all of these multiple icons. At the bottom you see an option for white balance, so they can also do it from the tablet. So a couple of other options to do that. That's white balancing. So speaking of, so now we're as if we're mid-case, meaning we see the Arthrex logo. As it's capturing pictures, it will be filling those thumbnails. You can adjust settings either with the camera by the defaults for the programming of the buttons, or you can choose any of these sub-tabs and change the settings. For brightness, when it's defaulting to this camera, you can drag the brightness higher or lower. You can do the same with zoom, increase the zoom. For arthroscopies, that means that circle you're looking at is going to get bigger, 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 or smaller, smaller, smaller. For laparoscopies, for 10mm scopes, it would already have fulfilled or filled the screen, so that's just going to zoom in on the image. For 5, by zooming, it will expand it to cover the entire screen. You also can change the button functions, so here you can change even the scene, which is how it handles light and color, gain, which will increase false or artificial light. You want to be careful with that to try and not go beyond medium, because otherwise it can kind of distort the image in a not so desirable way. That's about it. Here you hit this camera buttons tab. That's what that is. It's supposed to look like buttons on the camera head. Here you can change, I'm not sure if you can see, you can change however the buttons are currently programmed. Typically we will have already spoken with the surgeon, locked in their settings based on their preferences, so that per surgeon the buttons are programmed exactly how they like and want them. On occasion there'll be a new surgeon to a facility, so the nurse will have just logged in as surgeon, so that's a situation where you might need to change these functions on the fly. Let us know or call one of your capital rep specialists to help you change those settings permanently, which you would do not during a case but in between cases based on the surgeon's name and preferences. That's it. There are other tabs you can change. Print, that's where you change the pics per page and the quantities, even the orientation. Typically for arthroscopy we keep it at portrait because they want and do take a lot of pictures. Sometimes for general surgery or GYN they take very few, and we'd rather have them larger per image and more in a landscape format. These are where you can also activate your heads-up displays for shaver, RF, pump, insufflator. So that's it. That's where you change settings, and you should know and feel comfortable that if you're asked to change any settings as you do this, this is not affecting the image on screen. So as you can see, when I hit this and that slides out, it's not as though that's popping up on the screen. So you will not be interrupting the image. That's white balancing and settings.